It's always nice when a game that I'm highly anticipating for the year manages to come out earlier in the year. I, of course, am talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It has finally come out for the PlayStation 5. I was a big fan of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't know if I ever made a video on it, but I definitely really enjoyed my time with that game. And there were some things I didn't necessarily care for all that much in it, but overall, it was a fantastic experience. Obviously, taking the source material of Final Fantasy VII, the characters, the world, the setting, and then kind of doing like a retelling of it. I understand that some people don't like some of the way that the characters act nowadays versus how they used to, little things like that, which is actually something we'll talk about a little bit later on in this video, but I was excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This was one of my most anticipated games of the year. I ended up getting a review copy of the game, and no, I haven't beaten the game or anything like that. I'm about 11 or so hours in, but I just wanted to share my thoughts on the experience thus far. This obviously isn't going to be a review. It's just kind of my first impressions of this game and kind of what I love about it, and maybe what I'm not too keen on, that I'm kind of surprised that a lot of other people didn't really seem to mention this in their full reviews of the game. So obviously this game takes place after the events of Final Fantasy VII Remake. In case you didn't play that game or you forgot what happened in that game, because well, I mean, it has been quite a while since we played that game initially, there is a little reintroduction video. If you have time, I definitely recommend playing Final Fantasy VII Remake just to see kind of how different it is compared to the original game, but I guess you could just sort of jump into this. You know, as long as you watch the little video, you'll be fine as far as the story is concerned, because it's essentially a retelling of a story that you're probably already familiar with. But there are lots of new additions in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that are definitely worth talking about. The first and foremost thing has to be the open world-ish segments. Now, I say ish because it's not an open world in the sense of something like Elden Ring or Oblivion. It's just larger open areas in which you can explore, and you could do things like, find different springs and stuff like that, and find different reconnaissance stuff. It's good. It's very good. I enjoy that because there's a lot more of a sense of freedom in these openish segments versus how, considerably linear Final Fantasy VII Remake was as far as where you could go and when you could go there. Now, I do think the open world segments, they're not as crazy as some of the open worlds we've seen, but I think they are very well done for what they are. There's little secrets to discover. There's, of course, side missions and missions out the ass. There are so many missions in this game. It's honestly staggering. Like, the amount of stuff and the amount of side optional missions that you can do in this game is absolutely incredible. Like, I am actually blown away by how much stuff they've crammed into each individual region. I've been to 2 of the main regions so far, and there's so much stuff to kind of go back to. It's very cool. I enjoy that because it does feel like you're getting quite a bit of bang for your buck. Of course, we got to talk about the graphics of the game. I think this game is one of the best looking games I've ever seen. Now, I am playing the game on performance mode because graphics mode, it just felt very choppy to me. It didn't feel like a smooth experience. I don't have a frame rate meter or a FPS meter or anything like that, but it definitely didn't feel right to me. Whereas when I turned on performance mode, everything was just much, much better. The attention to detail in the areas that you're in, the character models themselves, the NPCs, the chocobos, the enemies you fight against, everything just looks absolutely spectacular. It is a visual treat on the eyes, and every new area has like a new feel to it and a new sort of theme to it. So once again, you're kind of just completely awestruck once again when you go to a new region, and maybe it's a little bit more developed, or maybe it's a little bit more, plant-based or stuff like that. Absolutely incredible stuff. Soundtrack, of course, absolutely top-notch. Gameplay. The gameplay feels a lot like Final Fantasy VII Remake, but there obviously are some new additions to it. One of the main things is the synergy attacks. Now, I believe these were added into the like Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade with Yuffie. I never played that, so you know I'm not 100% sure on that, but these synergy attacks are very nice. Basically, different characters that you have will have different synergy levels, and as you're battling and you have these synergies activated, you can then of course do these different attacks that are just based on that. I like that. It's nice to have a lot of attacks, and of course you have a lot of attacks in this game. You have folios, which obviously is like a skill tree sort of thing where you add more stuff to your character, as far as, you know, things like adding additional HP to them or being able to do certain moves or unlocking new moves and stuff like that. Very, very well done. The gameplay, as far as the combat is concerned, is still absolutely top notch, and I really feel like is the future of RPG games. You know, I get it. There's people that like the traditional turn-based stuff, and occasionally I do enjoy that. But the more real-time stuff, you know, the more sort of action-infused stuff, I feel like that's just becoming more and more popular with people. And when it's executed very, you know, well done, in a very well done manner, like this game is, like, absolutely incredible. The boss battles that I've encountered thus far, just insane boss battles. These big, huge, hulking creatures. Of course, you have your summons that you can do and bring them out to battle against these things. You have your limit breakers. There's so much stuff in terms of gameplay that I'm probably just kind of, you know, glossing over, because honestly, there's just so much stuff to talk about with this game as far as what you're getting into with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I absolutely love these boss battles. I have died a couple of times. There's a big sea creature battle. He whipped my ass the first time, but then I just kind of switched out party members, made it more so in line with, you know, his attack style and his sort of style of combat, and then I made it through. You know, you got to use your noggin sometimes. You can also like craft different things as well. Like you get this thing where you get these different items. I don't remember if this was in the first game or not, but you basically find items like resources all over the map, and then you could take those resources and craft different things like into potions and stuff like that. And the more you craft, the higher your level gets, and then you can craft additional stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff with this game. So obviously I've been very positive about this game thus far, but are there any drawbacks? I have to say yes, and I'm honestly surprised that more reviewers didn't sort of talk about it. Now, I'm not saying this is like, you know, be all end all stuff. I'm not saying this is the end of the world stuff. It's just things that I noticed that bothered me, and I feel like they would probably potentially bother other people. The first few hours of the game definitely is very slow, and I get that. You know, you're setting a mood, you're setting a tone, a tempo and stuff like that, but like the slow walking stuff, like, oh, I hurt my leg, now I have to walk really slow and stuff like that, I don't really care for that. I don't really care for that. It doesn't set like the best first impression with the game, and some of these missions that you do, they feel very convoluted for the sake of, I hate to say it, but padding. You know, I'm not saying that the game, you know, starts out as padding and there's lots of padding in the game, but there are elements of the game that definitely feel like they're there just to elongate things, especially if you're familiar with the source material and kind of how quickly some of these events take place. It definitely does feel like a little bit of padding. Like, you know, I had to do this thing for this guy, and I had to go to another guy to ask him for a part so that he could rebuild his little carriage, and then I went to the guy that I had to ask, and he was like, oh wait, you got to find these 3 things for me. So then I had to go find these 3 things, and then I had to go back to the guy to get the part, and then I had to go give it to the carriage. It's like, why? Like, this could have been more streamlined. Some of these side missions definitely feel sort of padded on, and I know what you're saying. Well, you could just skip the side missions. I mean, you can if you don't like Gil, if you don't like items, if you don't like leveling up, because you might have to battle something on the way there. Like, you're supposed to do some side missions. I'm not saying do all of them, but that definitely felt like a little bit of padding. And, you know, I kind of understood it with the first game because you were in a limited area, but this game is so much bigger in size and scope and in places that you can go. it's like, did you really need to pad it? Like, what's a better experience for someone? A tight 30, 35 hours or like an elongated 100+ hours? I don't know how long the game is. I know there's 14 chapters and I'm almost done with chapter 4, I believe. So I still have a ways to go. And I just feel like some of that padding could have been either minimalized or just removed completely. But with all that being said, it's a great game. It's a fantastic game. There's definitely some points that I've hit with this game where it's kind of like, you know, some of the characters, you're panting like a puppy. You know, what's going on there, Sephiroth? You got the hots for Cloud. It's 2024. Nobody cares about that. But I don't necessarily remember that in the source material. But I am enjoying my time with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's all these renames. And then what's the third one? The word you can't say anymore? I'm just kidding, people. Calm down. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying my time with the game. I think it's gorgeous. It's very fun to play. And the story, you know, it keeps you going. It's one of those games where you're like, all right, I'll just play for a little bit longer and then, you know, I'll call it a night. But then something happens in the story. You get to a new area or you know, something happens. And you're like, shit, I got to play it for longer. You know, just another 30 minutes, just another hour. And the next thing you know, the day has flown by. You've accomplished nothing, but you're having a good time with the game. Just wish they could have done something with, and I'm not doing that damn card game either. You know, fix some of these padded side missions, get rid of the card game. I skipped the tutorial. John told me it was easy. Screw you, Spawn Wave. I do not play card games in my video games. If I want to play cards, I'll play cards. But yes, if Rebirth is in Game of the Year conversation, I'm not going to be surprised. It's that damn good. Let me know in the comment section down below, though. Have you picked up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? If so, what are your thoughts on it? If you haven't picked it up, but you own a PlayStation 5, what are you waiting for? Maybe a price drop or something like that. Shoutouts to Square Enix for sending over a review copy of the game. And as always, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit that bell notification as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.